الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا وحبيبنا وإمام المتقين ما بعد. So inshallah ta'ala, in continuing with Umdatul-Ahkaam, we last reached the discussion of, or began the discussion of, using the siwak. So inshallah, in continuing that, we have the hadith and Aisha radiallahu anha that she mentioned قالت دخل عبد الرحمن بن أبي بكر رضي الله عنه على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. And Abdul Rahman ibn Abi Bakr radiallahu anhu, he entered upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, وأنا مسندته إلى صدري, and I was supporting him with my chest. That the Prophet Muhammad was laying on the chest of Aisha anha, and this is whilst he was on al-ihtidar, the final moments before death of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. وَمَا عَبْدُ الرَّحْمَنِ سِوَاكٌ رَطْبٌ يَسْتَنُّ بِهِ, and Abdul Rahman, he had a fresh siwak that he was using to clean his teeth. فَأَبَدَّهُ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم بَصَرَهُ. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he extended his sight towards it. He was happy to see the miswak. فأخذت السواك في لفظ آخر فقلت آخذه لك فأشار برأسه النعم. So in another narration, when she saw the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam looking at the miswak, she said, "Shall I take it for you?" And he indicated with his head, yes. So she took it for the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam from Abdul Rahman, and she mentions فقدمته فطيبته, that she قدم, this is to chew something with the tips of your teeth. Now, and khadama is to chew something with the whole mouth. So in Arabic it has these details. So basically when you are preparing your miswak, you always use the tip of your teeth to take off the bits and prepare it to be used for your teeth. Then she said, ثم رفعت يرحمك الله ثم رفعته إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Then she raised it to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. فاستنى به, then he used it to clean his teeth. فما رأيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم استنى استنانا أحسن منه. And she never saw him clean his teeth with the miswak in a better way than she did that time. فما عدا أن فرغ رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم رفع يده أو إصبعه ثم قال في الرفيق الأعلى ثلاثا ثم قضى وكانت تقول مات بين حاقنتي وذاقنتي. Then I mentioned that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he had finished, he raised his hand or his finger, and he was saying with the highest companionship, ثم قضى. He said this 3 times. ثم قضى, meaning he then passed away. And she mentioned, she would say, مات بين حاقنتي وذاقنتي, that he died whilst he was between my stomach and my upper chest. That was the state that the Prophet Muhammad passed away in. But the thing that he passed away, whilst he passed away after using the siwak. And it was something that we know from the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he would use the miswak abundantly. I remember he said, وَمُطَهِّرَةٌ أو مطهر الفم مرضاة للرب. That is something that cleans the mouth, but it also pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, it says في الرفيق الأعلى, meaning in the highest companionship. But of the things that is mentioned, that this is referring to Mikael wa Jibrail wa Israfil. Al-Rafiq al-A'la fil Jannah. Some say it means Mikael wa Jibrail wa Israfil. Wallahu ta'ala alam. But again, it shows لما رأى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم السواك فرح بذلك. When the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he saw the miswak, it's something that brought him joy. And it was of the things that he wanted to do prior to returning back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فيدل على حرص النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام على الطهارة والاستطابة وطيبة الهيئة. It shows the concern of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam with cleanliness, always been a state of purity, especially the mouth. يعني لابد أن يكون الفم طاهرا من النجاسة وكذلك من التلوث بالكلام. It has to be clean from a place of being staying away from impurities, but also has to be clean from the impurities of polluted sin of the tongue. So the tongue is clean from that which is impure, from carrion, carcass meat, dead meat, that which Allah has prohibited, khumur, different intoxicants. But also the Muslim has to ensure that the tongue is pure from ghiba wa namima. Now, wal buhtan, backbiting, slandering, carrying tales. All of these, qawl az-zur, giving false witness. These are the things that a person has to free their tongue from. You know, it's not only their cleanliness from impurities that are tangible, but also those spiritual impurities. A person has to keep their tongue away from this. وكذلك هذا الحديث بيان لفضل السواك. The fact that is of the things that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was able to do lastly before his death also shows the virtue of the siwak. Also it shows the permissibility of using someone else's miswak. There are some things that only because of Western culture we're like so scornful for this. But al-mu'min tahir, and the Muslim is pure. And the Muslim who uses miswak, their mouth is clean. It doesn't mean I'm saying that now let's all share miswak. I'm not gonna lie, I still couldn't do that. I'm just being real. I'll break your piece. Okay, we can cut it in half. But it just shows just the mentalities is like today you give someone else your drink, you look at them, okay, what are they gonna do? Are they gonna sky it or are they gonna just Bismillah? But these are cultures that we grow up on, and the thing is it has its place though. We have to take those things into consideration. I can't just grab man's drink and be like boxing like it's my own. I have to like ask them like, do you mind, kind of thing. Because we know culturally for us growing up here, we just can't do that anymore. Those things have changed. Like, you're not just gonna walk and use the next man's toothbrush, for example. But it's permissible to be done though, it's not impure. So if someone did do it, is it wrong? No. Is it impermissible? No. Rather, it is permissible. No. But we're not going to say it's sunnah to do it, to use someone else's la. They're saying it's permissible. It's mubah. It's neither encouraged nor is it discouraged. No.
Sheikh, how do you decipher when something's sunnah or not? Because like last week, one of my friends was saying that it's sunnah to marry someone who's older than you because Prophet ﷺ married Khadija. And then one of the other brothers was like, I don't think that's true.
It's not sunnah to marry someone older than you.
No, so
It's not every action the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is sunnah. No. The things that are sunnah that we know from the actions of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ are things that come with encouragement and virtues. There's a virtue attached to it. You see, there's a reward attached to it. It's a virtuous action. Because we know from that which is encouraged of the Prophet Muhammad to marry those who are young, childbearing, and the likes. You see. So, for example, you have some people now in America, man will get canes and say it's sunnah to have braids. Or a brother will do a video, yeah, and this is what wallahi, so the media, internet, social media is a mess. And the way Muslims just feel like they have to talk. Like everybody feels like they have something to say about the religion and they don't actually understand, they shoot themselves in the foot. So one brother's got cane rows. I don't know him, so that's why I can narrate it. It's public out there. If he sees it, may Allah guide him and remove the cane rows. Because it's not sunnah. He has cane rows and he's doing like, you know them 360, like a little, like everything you can see. He's saying it's sunnah, the Prophet used to braid his hair. The first thing you see in the comments is someone saying, yeah, but not those braids. What does he respond? I didn't say it was these ones. But it's like, then why do it then? Doesn't make sense. Because if I'm braiding my hair and saying that, it's like I'm saying this is sunnah to be done. But the braids that the Prophet Muhammad did that he could actually do to himself as well, able to plait his own hair, is that if it was time for salah, he would take it out. Not what these people are doing now. They can't take it out for salah at all. So it's very important. Too much times people, they talk about Islam without any qualification to talk. And they cause more harm than they cause good. You know, this is the problem that we have today. No? أي نعم هذا هو الله المستعان. And the issue is now, even influencers are doing it or becoming a means. For example, you got someone doing videos and they're talking about you can't wipe over socks. And it's like the Hanafi madhab. Don't come and tell me the Hanafi madhab anything. Tell me Allah said, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam said. And it's like influencers allowing their pages to be used for this now, but it's like you're not known for knowledge. If you're not known for knowledge, don't speak about Islam. Don't do that. The best you can do is share beneficial things by people of knowledge if you want to spread goodness. But as for you talking yourself or allowing people that are not people of knowledge use your platform and talk, this is not correct. And that's why so much of this work is being done, it's hard to undo it. But these are not the mediums of seeking knowledge, nor the people that you seek knowledge from. Like, it's actually disheartening seeing the amount of corruption on social media because everyone's got something to say. But nobody wants to spend time learning, they want to spend time talking. For what? What are you even talking about? And when you go to the senior scholars, you hear what they have to say, you're like, SubhanAllah, look what this guy was trying to tell me yesterday. Oh, you can't wipe over those socks are too thin. X, Y, and Z. When Sheikh Al-Bani was asked, rahimah, he said, leave off this falsafa. Leave off this philosophy talk. We need قال الله وقال الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم. You don't have nothing of the Salaf saying this. None of the Sahaba saying this. And rather, when they talk about intellect and logic, okay, but what you're saying contradicts the claim of logic. Because logically speaking, the best socks to wipe over would be socks that are thin. Because the objective is to what? Wash your feet, right? So water will get to the foot with a thinner sock. Logically, that is better. But it's not based upon logic. Whatever is a sock, you wipe over the sock. And that's it. But again, Allah musta'an, people always have something to say. Or they say what we were discussing the other day with some brothers, if you take off your sock, it breaks your wudu because you wiped over it. Why does it break your wudu? It doesn't break your wudu. What it breaks is the ability to wipe over it again if you put it back on. You have to make wudu without it on prior to putting it back on to wipe again. You can't take off your sock and then put it back on and wipe over your sock again. La. Taking it off breaks the mess. Doesn't break wudu. And these are things that we need to understand. And again, it's about evidence, not based upon... People need to stop imposing their madhab. Much time someone said to me, Akhi, you need to go and advise that brother. The madhab says this. I'm like, Akhi, la tufti bil madhab, Akhi. Don't give me fatwa based on madhab. Because even what you're saying of the madhab, scholars who are within that madhab don't share your opinion. Your opinion is not the strongest one. You see? And what happens with people like this? They can't pray anywhere but by themselves. Unless they're leading the salah. Because their salah is going to be waswas. That brother's praying with a baby in his hand. There's najasa in the nappy. Batil. That brother's kufi is too low. It's touching his eyebrow. He's meant to uncover his forehead. Batil. That brother, this is it. That one, this is it. So in the salah, they're thinking about everyone else's salah except for whose? Their own. Why? Because say my madhab tells me this. Anything outside of that is not correct. No, that's not the case. And when you want to go and address a matter, do research. The amount of things that I thought is not correct, and I go and check. For example, one time I saw a person who just wanted to start the salah, give up their place in the front row for someone else who's older than them. And in my head I was like, I'm going to give a reminder after, like, don't give up your place in the front row. He said, the virtue of the front row. So I said, before I even speak, let me see what senior scholars have said. And he said, la ba'as, no problem. Rather, it's praiseworthy. I was like, okay, I'm going to be quiet. I'm not going to say anything then. But my nafs, my ignorance, was telling me, no, speak about this straight after salah. I'm like, but from experience you learn, don't just hasten to speak about something. Even though most times people say you need to address this, but in my head I'm like, no. Because akhi, you are very attached to this topic, but it's not as black and white as you think it is. And also, me knowing myself at my age and my youthfulness in the da'wah and seeking knowledge, if there are not seniors who are speaking about a topic, I'm not going to be the first. No way. Sacrifices for Eid al-Adha. I'm not sacrificing myself. Why? Why am I going to be the first one to address something as if we don't have elders in the da'wah that can address it? Or I can easily go and contact elders and say, is there a reason why no one's talked about this issue? Or maybe they have spoke about it and I'm not aware. You see? So we have to be cautious of being hasty. Hasty in coming to conclusions and judgments and passing rulings on people, and being hasty in just conveying what someone else has said. Because some things are, okay, yeah, that's for you, no problem. Jazakallahu khairan. I just don't follow that opinion. And why I say this, because I had a situation, a brother was trying to impose upon me, and I said, Akhi, I don't follow that madhab. Tell me the evidence, not the madhab. I want to know, what is the evidence that I have to do this or that? Because as far as I'm aware, there isn't evidence for that. So I am not obliged to follow what you're telling me to do. And I said, but when I was living in this country, everyone did that. Okay, I don't live in that country, never lived in that country, and I don't have to do that. Because none of those things for me, and what you're saying is what? Is evidence. So we have to be very cautious when people are imposing opinion. Even opinions of scholars. A scholar might have a preference, but does that mean it's wajib? No. Even sometimes their understanding of a matter, is it wajib? No. That's the scholar's opinion. That's the thing that they do for themselves. That's how they interpret it for themselves. But does it mean that that action that they're doing is an obligation to be followed? No, it doesn't. Unless evidence points in that direction. And many young people are in need of understanding this, because this is what has become the biggest chaos for us. Because when you go to Muslim countries, they're just seeking knowledge, benefiting, excelling. For us, we don't even know the language, hardly memorize Quran, but we're arguing everywhere. Who's Salafi, who's not Salafi. But we don't even have knowledge of what Salafiyya is wholeheartedly, in totality, to be having these discussions. Wasting the hours that I could actually be learning what it is and learning to be able to learn from the scholars. I'm just watching debates or memorizing who's talking about this. To the point recently, I saw a brother from Holland calling a brother from London to ask about a scholar in Saudi. And I was like, what is going on? We are finished. That's the reality, we're finished. Not calling scholars. I'm going to go and call just a random person and ask them about a sheikh. Really? This is the level that knowledge has come to. So now a person studies one thing in fiqh. You do it, no, akhi, your salah is invalid. Why? Because my madhab said, akhi, your kufi cannot be on your forehead. No. Or there's conditions for the khutbah, and you didn't say, ittaqullah. Just because you didn't say that word, your khutbah is not valid, akhi. Stuff like this. This is what happens. And they impose. And there becomes arguments that lead to even bloodshed and cursing and dishonoring. Why? Because lack of knowledge. The more we actually learn, the more we say, Akhi wallahu a'lam, I don't know. And one shouldn't feel shame to say, I don't know. Unless it's matters that have to be known by necessity. Someone says, Akhi, how much pillars of Islam? You can't say, I don't know. You can't say, I don't know to that. How many salah do you have to pray a day? You can't say, wallahu a'lam. Abadan. No. It's not befitting to say it there. Because that's known, that should be known by durura. Even if you don't pray, you have to say it. And also, what we should try to do when there are matters of contemporary issues, look if this discussion ever happened among the old scholars. What was the argument then? What was the stance taken then? You see? Because sometimes you'll find a scholar might say something of a ruling, a position that they take, and today, and it is a valid position if you believe that. But when you look at the scholarship of old, they had this discussion. And maybe you would think the scholars are going to have the same stance from old as they have today, and it's not the same stance. An example is those who leave the salah. The one who leaves the salah, whether he's a kafir or not, that is a discussion of old. Many scholars of today say they're kafir, but there are also those who say no, they're not a kafir. And it's a discussion that goes back to the time of Ibn Qudama. He mentioned his Mughni, where you find majority said no, they're not a kafir. So it's important. So when you want not to busy yourself with debating, no. But when you find yourself in a situation, don't be hasty. Be prepared to say, Akhi, let me get back to you, because I actually want to research this. And take time if it's of benefit. But if it's of no benefit, don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. The issue we have today, sometimes we feel we're obliged to respond. You're not obliged to respond at all. The amount of questions I get, I just literally ignore them. Because it's either from a place of waswas, or it's absolutely no benefit, or it's leading. I'm not even entertaining this. I don't have no time for that. Why? Because that for me is not beneficial knowledge. Beneficial knowledge for me is knowing one of the most beloved things to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was using the siwak. And me now, when I'm thinking about purifying the mouth, I'm not only thinking about breath and cleanliness, I'm also thinking about adab wal akhlaq, manners. Because this same mouth that we use to recite the Quran, I shouldn't be using it to eat the flesh of mankind. La. I shouldn't be using the same mouth that I'm using to recite the book of Allah, to be speaking ill about people behind their back, to be carrying tales about people, to be fabricating lies against people, to be bearing false witness for my friends, to build our case, to make it seem strong. We're all on the same side. So we're all going to falsely affirm as if it's the truth, knowing that it's what? A lie. La. We don't use our mouth for this. Rather, what I should do, use my mouth for dhikr, for remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for reciting the book of Allah azza wa jal, for reading the books of knowledge. That's what I should be using my mouth for. So when I stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and our limbs will speak against us, I'm hoping my hands will say, I held the mushaf, I held the books of knowledge. And my tongue will say yes, and we read them, and we recited them. And my heart will say yes, and we memorized. And then my tongue will also say yes, and we conveyed. That's what a person should be seeking. Those actions that will be virtuous before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that a person will be raised in ranking for before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The easiest thing is the Quran. Everyone talks about Ramadan's coming, but what ways are we preparing for Ramadan? Am I actually reading the Quran more? Am I actually using the miswak more, knowing that my breath might smell, and although it's beloved to Allah, the people can't handle this. But the miswak is also pleasing to Allah, and it will help the people next to me. All these things. See, I take those things into consideration. Let me make the miswak beloved to me before Ramadan. Maybe I'm not used to it. I don't know how to use it. I'm going to become accustomed to it. I'm going to learn, when did the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to use the siwak? I'm not used to reading so much Quran on a day-to-day basis. But I'm going to try my best to read a juz, half a juz a day, until I'm able to read more and more on a day-to-day basis. I'm not used to standing in the night and praying salah when people are sleeping, but let me start trying to do so. Even if it is 2 rak'ah, 3, whatever it is. So when Ramadan comes to me, I'm not starting, I'm increasing. I'm only doing more. That's what it should be. You see. As I said, the Muslim uses Ramadan to measure themselves. Accountability. Am I in a better position now than I was last year? Am I sinning less that I know of the sins that I knowingly do? Am I doing less of this now than I was last year? You know, measuring one's circumstance between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is important. But people wasting your time talking about affairs that's got no benefit to you, politics that doesn't benefit you. When I speak about politics, I'm not talking about the transgression and oppression. That is a concern of every single one of us. That we should, as Muslims, we should be making dua for the Muslims in Palestine, the Muslims in Sudan, and any other place that we know that they're being oppressed, going through hardship. That is a concern of every single Muslim. Even Syria, we're meant to be making dua for them, that Allah makes them firm, Allah grants them success, that Allah grants them safety and stability. These are the things that we are concerned with as Muslims. So when I say staying away from politics, I'm not talking about these affairs. La. When someone's busy, Akhi, you see when that country's doing da da da. Okay, I don't live there, Akhi. What do you want me to do? Should we send a postcard to the king? What can we do? Like me and you having that conversation, what does it benefit me and you? Did your iman increase? No, not at all. Did you do any actions? Is there a reward attached to anything you've just done now? Okay, we got a warn against the evil and command the good. Okay, but to me or to them? Because me and you having this conversation, they're not here. What's the benefit? So it's you establishing that and be able to firmly say, Akhi, barakallahu feek, but this conversation, I'm actually not going to have it with you. And it's not rude to say that, but we need to learn to be able to safeguard our time. Because I've had situations, someone asks me a question and it becomes a debate. I'm like, are you asking a question to benefit from me? Or are you drawing me out? Because I'm not here for that. So respectfully, I'm going to just say to you now, I'm not continuing this conversation. Because I don't have doubt. The doubts you have is actually not my issue. So if you're going to challenge me when you came from a place as if you didn't know and use it as an opening, barakallahu feek, but you're on your own with this one. My concern is that which is going to benefit me in this life and in the hereafter. That when I meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I am not going to regret wasting that time knowing that I had that conversation with you. No benefit. And that's why the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Ihris ala ma yanfa'uk, wasta'in billah, wa la ta'jiz." Strive towards that which will benefit you. And seek Allah's help. And don't see yourself to be unable. Don't see yourself to be unable. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala an yu'allimana ma yanfa'una wa zidna ilma. Allahumma ameen. We ask her to teach us that which will benefit us and increase us in knowledge. Ameen. وَنَكْتَفِي بِهَذَا. We stop with this. Inshallah, next week there will be no classes. The next class will be Thursday, the 2nd of January, inshallah. But between this time, there's a lot of conferences going on. So one can benefit from them, inshallah. There's class tomorrow, inshallah, in Sirah as normal. But after that, after tomorrow, until there's Thursday, the 2nd of January, inshallah. But as a reminder, Friday the 27th, We have 2 scholars to come visit us, inshallah. There will be a talk after Asr and a talk after Maghrib, inshallah. That'll be Friday the 27th. And other than that, look out for all the conferences that are going on with the scholars, people of knowledge, true scholars. And I emphasize true scholars because in the West, we've been cultivated among some communities to not be able to tell the difference by calling everyone sheikh. Everyone's a sheikh, la. True people of knowledge, they'll be visiting, inshallah ta'ala. And I tell you, me, Ibrahim Al-Mubtasim, these are my words, don't misquote me. Anyone who's warning you from benefiting from scholars, then you need to stay away from those individuals. You need to stay away from those individuals because they are behaving like shayateen, turning the people away from knowledge. And it happens every year, 3 times a year or more. But especially during this time when there's a lot of conferences going on, they're going to warn against everyone but themselves and say, come to our conference. Our conferences are pure sunnah. But the only scholars they will have is a telelink. No. Benefit from them, inshallah ta'ala. And as I said, anyone who warns you against them, then that is the one you need to take caution from. They're basically saying, stay away from me. Now. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.